13. The moral of the story is sometimes dreams come true when they don't come through, especially if you get a fresh cut out of the deal. I'd never known how to clean sneakers. To be honest, it never even crossed my mind that sneakers would need to be cleaned, at least not the way my father was teaching me to do. I never had nice enough shoes to care this much about them. My 30-buck Chucks never needed all this. As a matter of fact, they looked better dogged. So I ground them down to nothing before Ma got me a new pair. But these were different. Apparently, these Jordans weren't only meant to make me jump, but they were also meant to last forever. And it was my job to make sure that happened. A job I had no idea I was signing up for. The first thing we gon' do is take a toothbrush and some toothpaste and scrub the upper part, right here, just like teeth. Then remove the laces and scrub the tongue. Then scrub the soles. Then rinse the shoe with warm water. Then do it again, but this time with soap and water. Gotta really scrub it. Then we gon' soak the laces in bleach water for an hour, and while they soaking, we take a toothpick and pick out every rock and, in your case, clump of sand stuck in the grooves of the soles. And after that, we gon' scrub the bottom again to make sure they clean. My father tossed out these instructions sitting on the closed toilet seat, right where my mother had sat almost a week prior after the razor incident. Dad couldn't stand, at least not straight up, couldn't even walk home. Thankfully, Coach Marvin ain't mind easing him into his back seat and driving us. He even helped walk my father up the steps to our apartment. But when Coach Marvin tried to ease Dad down on the couch, my father waved him away, said we needed to go clean my sneakers immediately. Then came all the instructions, and after we went through the process, my father held the shoes up to inspect them. That's the way Jordans should look, Dad said, especially this kind of sneaker. Now, if you set on using these as your jumping shoes, which I think is a terrible idea, all I ask is that you take care of them like this after every practice. What about this part? I ran my fingers over the creases. How we fix this? Dad sighed, winced as he lifted himself off the toilet seat. Well, kid, some deeds can't be undone. Sneakers, when they clean, are basically just like new. So when my mother got home from work, I was standing in the middle of the kitchen, sneaker-footed. I was finishing the last of my microwaved meal, turkey that don't taste like turkey, mashed potatoes that don't taste like mashed potatoes, and veggies that taste too much like veggies, when I heard the door close behind her. Hey, she said, setting her purse and keys down. I froze as she locked all the locks, kicked off her flats, then kissed my head. "Oh, baby, where's the last place you saw it?" "So what?" "You're mine," she whispered. "Clearly you've lost it." She tilted her head just a few degrees, looked down at my feet. "But they clean." I unfroze, lifted one up so she could see the bottom. Even cleaner than they were when they were brand new. "I suggest you take 'em off before I do it for you and snatch some of your toes with 'em. Ever seen a scary smile? She flashed one of those at me. "Ma," I tried to calm her. "Hear me out." "Odie," smile gone. "Just hear me out, please." I put some pillow in my voice. "I can't take 'em off." "You can't what?" "I can't take 'em off." It was like I was talking to Mr. Flowers all over again. "I can't." I said it like I meant it and was also sorry about it. Ma squinted one eye, crossed her arms. "Has your father somehow glued them to your feet?" she asked. "No." "Have you?" Not a stupid question given what happened to my eyebrow. "No." "Then why exactly can't you take 'em off, son?" "Because I need to charge him up. My mother took a seat at the kitchen table, covered her face with her hands. You need to charge. You know what? I'm scared to ask. They gotta be charged, Ma, I repeated, ready to demonstrate my point. See, I'd been thinking about this since we'd left practice. In the Nike commercial for the Air Jordan 3, Mike is dribbling and making sharp moves, and the sneakers are squeaking on the court. Squeak, dribble, dribble, squeak, squeak. He does this for a while before finally dunking, and the way I see it, all them squeaks is where the charge up is happening. You gotta squeak the shoe to get the air bubble pumped, or something like that. Mr. Jefferson even did it when he did the 360. So when Ma came home, that's what I was in the middle of, squeaking, acting out all kinds of silly, the most basketball moves in the kitchen, squeaking and squeaking, charging and charging. Well, charge them some more tomorrow and maybe somewhere else. I don't want to hear all that squeaking right now, she replied after I explained it all to her. Where's your dad? Sleep on the couch, I said. He raced coach today and I think it uncharged him. It must have if he could sleep through all that. Ma took her watch off, set it on the table. Did he win? Yep. I was proud. Well, we'll see if he can even get out of bed tomorrow. I'll be fine, Dad grumbled from the other room. He got up, eased into the kitchen, and bent at a right angle to kiss the only thing he could, her hand. Nothing beats a broken back better than a brag, and I got the rights to all the bragging, so trust me, I'm getting out that bed tomorrow. He hobbled on down the hall, then the sound of the bathtub filling, then the sound of him again. Sonia, we got any Epsom salt? My mother opened the cabinet under the sink to get the carton of salt that I learned a long time ago was not meant for seasoning, but for soothing. You put it on the body, but if you put it on your chicken, trust me, don't put it on your chicken. Speaking of getting out of bed, why don't you go getting yours? I didn't know it at first, but she was talking to me. Right now? It's late. Then she pointed to the shoes. Ma, for real, I need to keep 'em on, I swear. Please, just for tonight. She thought for a second, not even a second of a second, but not a second, and said no. The next morning I woke up with my father standing over me. I was more surprised he was upright at all, let alone hovering over me like a weirdo. That Epsom salt works. It should probably go in the medicine cabinet with the rest of the potions. Hey, I said, but he shushed me and bent down close. I could see on his face that his back still had a slight bite and his nose still had a bit of blue. He whispered, Your mother is leaving in a little bit, but just chill, because you're not going to school this morning. I'm not, I whispered back. Not unless you don't want to shape up. I sprung right up. It was finally going to happen. Chill, he said low and pressed the air in front of him. Just get up and act normal. And that's exactly what I did. Got up, showered, and got dressed, and caught Ma just before she left, just in time to ask her to take my shoes out the safe cabinet. I need 'em, I said, for school. For once she didn't fight me on it, just spun and popped the lock, then handed me the kicks. Tie 'em up tight, she said. But of course, I didn't listen to that, especially with my dad standing there. If we were hanging out, especially if we were going to the barber shop, I couldn't have my Jordans choked. So I put them on exactly the way I was supposed to. Loose-laced, jeans tucked, tongue out, just like Jordan. Outside, I questioned Dad. We really going to the barber shop? Dad didn't answer, so I kept asking, just to make sure. Dad, we really going? I probably said it 5 more times before he finally stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Yes, We going, Odie? You asking all these questions like you've changed your mind. Nah, I'm just trying to understand why you changed yours. Well, after Saturday night and you helping me out with the cleaning up so your mother wouldn't have to see all that mess, I don't know. I guess I just appreciate you making it a little easier on her by making sure she ain't come home to a trail of blood, he said. She would have had a heart attack. He said all this, and if I'm being honest, he probably said something else too, but I ain't really hear much else because it ain't really matter whether this was his way of saying thank you or whatever. I was just happy we were going to the barber shop. When we got there, my father peered in before actually opening the door. Look who it is, Mario greeted us. There were less people inside than I was used to seeing through the window. Two barbers, Mario and the scar-mouthed guy who'd been outside that night, and a customer in Mario's chair. I guess the clippers don't really get to cutting up until the afternoon. Inside, boom bap was coming through the speakers, loud enough to hear the lyrics, but also soft enough to hear the words of the people inside. There was also a TV on, muted. My father was given the typical handshakes and fives he always received. At first I thought Dad was going to treat Mario like Ma did at church, like he wasn't there, like he was only a spirit or something. But Dad gave him a chin up, which was the same as a what's up, and we took our seats in the chairs lining the wall, the black vinyl cushions split like skin, exposing the foam stuffing. Mario, I know you know my kid, but I don't know if you do, Booney. Dad hung one of his arms over my shoulders. Yeah, I seen him around, the man called Booney said. He had a weird shaped head, like a football, and of course that scar, like you could unzip it and widen his smile, which, by the way, was already pretty wide. You hang out with Gordon, right? Yeah, Goose, I confirmed. I hang out with Tori too. Who's Tori? Booney asked. Little Tori who'll be drinking coffee in the morning, Mario said. Mama Cunningham's grandson. Mama Cunningham who used to babysit us? Yeah, that's her grandkid. She's been raising him since forever. Mario was raking his clippers across the top of his client's head. Got all that hair? He used to, but not no more. He cut it off. A correction from me. Well, why she don't never bring him in here for trim or shape up? Booney asked. Mario shrugged. Ask him, he said, nodding at me. Oh, I don't know why he don't come in here, but I don't come here because my mother won't let me, I explained, watching the hair fall from the man in Mario's seat. She won't let you? Booney said. She's scared of us or something? Don't she know we got kids y'all's age? I know she ain't scared of me, Mario chimed, each of his S words starting with a whistle. She ain't scared of nobody, not you, not even my dad. They all laughed at that and my father's face soured, and I thought I might have said something wrong, and then Dad did the heh thing and I knew I said something wrong. Hey, man, I love her because she tough, Dad said, quick, playing it off. But I married her because she said she'd kill me if I didn't. The three guys in the barber shop liked that joke even more, and it took the attention off me. Well, Booney said, there's no wait today, kid. Oh, I want Mario, I replied. No, you don't, Dad said. We ain't about to be in here all day. Booney got you, Odie, Mario vouched. He'll take care of you. It'll be VIP treatment. Plus, if the boogeyman comes, he's more scared of me than Mario, Booney joked, dusting off his chair. He nodded his head to the music. You ain't got much hair up there anyway. What you looking to get? Just a shape up. I brushed hair dust off my sneakers before standing. You got it. This ain't gonna take nothing but a second. Then he turned to my father. You getting something too big, Otis? Yeah, I should probably clean up, Dad said. Yeah, you should, Booney laughed. A fade? A fade sounds good. Booney started in with the Clippers, talking mess about how Jordan ain't deserve his own sneakers because he hadn't won a championship yet. If that's the case, they need to give Isaiah Thomas his own shoe too, Booney razzed. Mario tossed his 2 cents in. Isaiah got a better chance of winning a ring than Jordan. Booney tapped me on the shoulder. What you think, little man, since you got on his sneakers? I just think can't nobody jump like MJ. I glanced at my father. He nodded. Right answer. Yeah, you only think that because you ain't never seen a bag of dope in a tree, Booney muttered out of the side of his mouth to Mario. They laughed and my father looked itchy. He cut into their chuckles with more haircut instructions. He got enough hair for a part? Dad asked. I got you, said Booney, turning me toward the mirror, and I couldn't believe it. It's strange what a straight line can do, what it's like to suddenly put your face in a real life picture frame, but the picture frame is also part of you, and everything looks better. And everything looks better framed. I looked good enough to not get teased. Shoot, I looked good enough to tease somebody else. But I would never. Me staring myself down was only interrupted by a small photograph, unframed, that caught the corner of my eye. It was taped to the bottom of the mirror. 2 girls, Rashida and Rashanda. Boone. Booney. Boone. Wow. Everything in me wanted to ask how he could not know Tori, but then everything else in me knew that was a bad idea. When it was Dad's turn, he sat in Booney's chair. Booney pulled the smock over him and buttoned it at the back of his neck. Their conversation went a different way. It was a lot less funny, a lot less loud, a lot more serious and quiet. I just stared at the TV, watching Beverly Hills Cop until I got bored. Y'all got Back to the Future? Booney paused, clippers in hand. RoboCop? No, Back to the Future, I repeated. Only RoboCop, Mario echoed, a signal to not ask again because they apparently only watched movies about police officers. When my father's fade was done, he reached in his pocket and gave Booney the $50 bill he'd won the day before in the race against Coach. You need change? Booney asked. Yeah, give me a 10 back. Dad looked toward the door as if someone had just come in, but no one did. The rest is, tip money. Booney grinned, said, 1 second, and walked to the far end of the shop where I guess the cash register was. When he returned, he gave my father enough change to make him close his fist around the money, like it was all in quarters or something, and my father stuffed it down in his pocket. Then finally, he checked himself out in the mirror to examine his haircut, but he ain't shine like I did when I saw mine. You don't like it? I asked, surprised by the dullness of his mug. He just weirded his mouth and said, Let's go. We gotta get you to school. I thought I wasn't going. I said you weren't going in the morning. It's almost noon, he said, which was a lie because it wasn't even 11 yet. He held the door for some of the other guys, the ones my mother was always worried about, to come into the shop. They all spoke to him and me, but Dad rushed me out the door before I could answer. Come on, I'll walk with you. The neighborhood is different in the middle of the day. I never knew that because I was usually in school, and whenever I wasn't in school in the middle of the day, a weekday, it was usually because I was sick and was home on the couch. But as we walked up the avenue, I got a glimpse of what happens while I'm in school. The answer is nothing. Nothing was happening. The streets were pretty quiet, store owners owning stores, bus drivers picking up nobody. There were a few people taking an early lunch, leaning against the wall of their workplace, scarfing food, or having a smoke break. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I learned that for the most part, the world was no fun without me and my friends. That's what it felt like. It needed us to be out of school, add some energy to the neighborhood. There's something I need to tell you, my father said suddenly. Uncle Marvin called me this morning. Oh yeah? What he want? He called me to tell me that he spoke to Mr. Anderson. Dad glanced over at me. I guess they spoke last night. Sometimes you just know. Sometimes you really just know. And in those times, it's hard to pretend like you don't. I blew it, huh? You didn't blow it, Odie. Dad put his arm around me again. It was just a bad day for a bad day. And that's the moral of that story. We walked another half a block in silence. I didn't say nothing. He didn't either, until he did. How you feel? He asked. I didn't respond. Anything you want to say? I had been thinking, if I had all the money in the world, you know what I'd buy? A time machine. He knew me well. And if I had one, know what I'd do? I'd go back to that moment, that last 100 when my body got all tight and weird, and I let it break into pieces if I had to, in order to show that man what I got. I could feel the tears, but was trying so hard not to cry, so hard that my neck felt like a fist was stuck in it. My father stopped me from walking, turned me toward him. You don't need money to buy a time machine, Odie. You got legs. I wasn't getting it. We all got legs, I said. No, I mean, you got these legs, special legs, and they gonna be your time machine. They like your flux capacitor, and they're what's gonna move you into the future better than anything else. That and your plutonium heart. He picked up his stride again. You 12. Next year you'll be really ready for the Junior Olympics. Plus, you'll have an extra event under your belt. What event? I asked. Oh, you talking about the long jump, he said. You still want to do it, right? Of course. I realized then that he took me to the barber shop because he knew he'd have to drop this news on me. It was a trick, but it was a good one. So, you cool? He held his hand out for a 5. I'm cool, I said, slapping it. But what about Tori? Did Mr. Anderson like him? Yeah, Dad said. He liked Tori a lot. I couldn't stop my smile from breaking through. Do he know? I don't think so. Can I tell him? I asked, crossing the street to the school. Dad didn't cross with me. Yeah, you can tell him, he called out. When I got to the school doors, I took a deep breath, breathing in all that had happened that morning, the good news of a haircut, the bad news of not making the Junior Olympics, and the good news that Tori made it, and the bad news that I had to come to school, but the good news that I looked amazing and blew it all out. And when I glided through those double doors, it was like stepping into a time portal that took me to an alternative version of myself. The me I would be if I was actually who I was in my head, C.L. McFly. That's who I walked in as, and for the rest of the school day, that's how I was treated, 100% fly. Mr. Flowers called me Mr. Brody, and I felt like he meant it. Mr. Jefferson got down and swept my shoes with his hand. Mrs. Tannerbaum told me my time machine drawing was, in fact, chosen to be the cover of the yearbook. And Quentin was probably jealous, but he was also jokeless, couldn't say nothing about nothing, which was something perfect. Wasn't no practice on Tuesday, so me and Tori went down to Mr. Charles' store so that he could see me, because everyone needed to see me. Haircuts do that to you. Sneakers do that to you. The rest of my clothes weren't important, but they were clean, so they were fresh. On the way, I held a secret, waiting for the right time to tell Tori about the Junior Olympics. I felt like Goose needed to be with us too, so until we met up with him, I distracted myself by testing out my Jordans. I was jumping, seeing if I could touch the street signs. Jumping, seeing if I could touch the highest scaffolding rail outside of Golden Palace. They were having work done. Jumping, seeing if I could touch the roof of a dump truck parked on the street like a regular car. Jumping and jumping and jumping and touching nothing. Why they ain't working? I asked Tori, but he didn't answer. just adjusted his walk, moving like he had a bad hip. It was like he was hitting his penultimate over and over again without lifting off, practicing the glass manor glide. I teased him and told him that's how Rashonda's dad walks. Ain't nothing wrong with imitating my future father-in-law, Tori joked back. Matter of fact, I might pop in there to get a shape up too, introduce myself and ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. He bobbed ahead of me, and the bob got more broke down with each step, and before we went in the store, we stopped at the barbershop window just in case Goose was in there collecting orders for his daily store run. We didn't see him. What we did see was a huddle of flash and snarl dope boys and neighborhood somebodies doling out secret handshakes and cracking jokes. A few sat in the barber chairs, one getting cut, the others just hanging out, counting cash. And I thought I didn't feel this earlier. And I thought I didn't feel this earlier when I was getting a cut in the empty shop. Now seeing them all in there made me tight, nervous, sick, because I don't know. Because I did know. I knew they were all there when my father got his face rocked for no reason. And I knew they ain't doing nothing. They ain't do nothing because I guess a boss is a boss. And they wasn't no bosses. So the gold suddenly ain't seem as shiny, and the sneakers suddenly ain't seem as clean, and even the clothes ain't seem to fit the same. Everything corny, everything cheap. Poor baby who was talking to Booney spotted us, came to the door. Your daddy sent you back over here already? He asked. Nah, I said, confused. We was just looking for Goose. Oh, he across the street picking up some stuff for us. Y'all want to come in and wait for him? Poor baby opened the door wide, welcomed us. Yes, Tori said, taking a step forward. No, I snapped, grabbing his shirt. We'll catch him over there. Poor baby shrugged and let the door go so it could close slow enough for us to change our minds, but we didn't. I didn't. We could hear Mr. Charles' store from the opposite side of the street, the sound coming from inside of it, getting louder as we got closer. This was normal. Mr. Charles was always in there watching some old movie, blasting it loud enough for the neighborhood to hear. When we got inside, Goose was standing there holding a bag of snacks, staring at the screen like he was hypnotized. We here, Tori shouted. We here, I followed. What's up, y'all? Goose said, giving us fives before going right back to the movie. What's this? Tori asked, sidling up next to him. This one's called the Wild Bunch, he said. Mr. Charles says it's the best. Because it is, Mr. Charles hollered from the back of the store. He moved carefully up the aisle so he didn't knock over any cooking oil or rolls of toilet paper on the way. It ain't better than Back to the Future, I said. Of course not, said Mr. Charles, turning the volume down. I said one of the best movies, like almost the best. Almost matters. I slapped Tori on the arm with the back of my hand. That's what my dad says. That's definitely what his dad says, Tori confirmed, gazing out the window. He was hypnotized too, but by what was going on across the street. It was like he couldn't keep his head from going that way, like poor baby or Mario or Booney or any of them had it on a string and was tugging on it every few seconds. Your dad says smart things. Sometimes, Mr. Charles poked. Sometimes, I agreed, my eyes on the screen, cowboys, pistols. Matter of fact, I saw him earlier. He said something smart? Nah, he didn't see me, but I saw him. Mr. Charles scratched the scruff on his chin. He was actually acting kinda strange. He's probably nervous about my mother seeing my haircut, because she hates for me to go over there. I was wondering if Mr. Charles was going to mention it, compliment me or something. I don't blame her. Guess not. But he took me anyway. Cleaned me up. I waited again for the compliment. Nothing wrong with that. But just remember, there's always a thin line between clean and dirty. Two opposite sides of the same street, but a short crosswalk. Understand? At this point, I realized the nice nods weren't coming. Maybe white men don't see the same. He talking about thin lines, I'm talking about hairlines. That's from one of these movies? I asked. Mr. Charles smiled. Nope, but it could be. He bumped me and headed back to the stockroom. From across the street, the Clippers were yelling Goose's name. He'd probably been in the store way longer than he was supposed to be and hadn't brought them back nothing yet. Hey, can you fellas help me move some of this back here? Mr. Charles pointed to a stack of boxes on the side of the meat counter. I gotta go, Goose said, switching the plastic back to his other hand. I can come right back, but I understand. Mr. Charles landed the plane for him. Goose's name being screamed louder and louder. What you doing in there? They yelled. You hiding from us or something? They yelled. Don't get your feathers plucked, they yelled. Chips, cookies, a ginger ale, they yelled. Goose headed for the door. Tori stopped him. Wait, before you leave, I got a question. For me? Goose asked. Yeah, Tori said. I've been meaning to ask you. In private school, y'all be learning about air dynamite? Air dynamite? Goose was confused. So was I. Odie, what's the word? Aerodyna... The stuff that stops drag. Tori asked. I wasn't confused anymore. If anything, I was nervous he was about to catch me in my lie, and maybe he should. Maybe he already had. Either way, I wasn't ready to give it up yet. They gon' drag Goose out of here if we don't let him go, I said. Right, Goose said, turning around. But wait! This time it was me who yipped. Before you go, I got an announcement. An announcement? From Tori. Yeah, really it's about you, but I wanted Goose to be here for it too. I held a finger in the air to tell Goose I just need one more minute. One more. About me? Tori said, leaning against the meat counter. Please don't tell me you're joining a cult, because if so, we could just go across the street and be... No, I cut him off. It's good news. Great news. Tori, you going to the Junior Olympics. What? You going, man, I said. Dad told me this morning. You there. Is this a track thing? Asked Goose, antsy against the door frame. If it is, congratulations, but I really need to be running too. But before they... Go ahead, Goose, but we gotta do something to celebrate later, I said, but he was already in the wind. I'm going to the Junior Olympics, Tori muttered to himself, the sound of gunshots coming from the TV that could have sparked him to break into a 100-meter dash right there. He gave me a 5, then pulled me in for a hug and whispered, all because of my air dynamite, which means all because of you. He palmed the back of my head and I pushed him off me. Bald heads forever. Don't tell the other guys, I said, cleaning his never no-soap germs off me. Let Coach do it. When Coach gonna do it? Tori asked, vibrating with excitement. I don't know. Probably tomorrow. Don't say nothing because I wasn't even supposed to know. Deal? Deal. You swear? I try not to. My grandma hates when I talk like... Tori! I swear, dang. He gave me 5 to seal the deal. Congratulations, Tori, Mr. Charles said, but I still could use a little help. We got you, I replied, volunteering Tori's 8th grade strength. Sorry, Mr. Charles, but I gotta go. I gotta tell my granny. She not gonna believe this, and we having cabbage tonight, which is the perfect Junior Olympics meal. As strange as it sounded, Tori wasn't joking. He loved when his grandmother made cabbage because he'd heard whatever's in the leaf makes the legs stronger. I don't know who told him that, but he swore he heard it, and so cabbage on the menu was cause for celebration, and that to this amazing news and he had the perfect excuse to get out of work, even if it was easy work. I guess it's on me, I told Mr. Charles. I gave Tori another 5, then went for my first box, and as the door chimed, Mr. Charles pointed toward the back of the store. How's your mom? Mr. Charles asked as I set the package down at the stockroom door. I glanced inside the room. Not much to see, a clock and a framed $5 bill on the wall. Mr. Charles set the box he was carrying down beside mine. What's that? I pointed at the bill. That's the first $5 this store ever made. Came from a gentleman that goes by the name Biscuit. I know Biscuit, I said, instantly flashing back to him slamming that phone into my father's nose. The fact that he drove a DeLorean meant nothing to me now. The purple ruined it anyway. I really hope you don't. I mean, I don't know him like that, but I know who he is, I explained, my blood hot in my body. What'd he buy? Nothing. So he just gave you $5 and you decided to frame it like it's art? It ain't art. Art is supposed to remind us of beauty. This reminds me of duty. Well, I understand duty. It's like my dad always says, the best never rest. I headed back toward the front of the store. Sometimes I wish the best did, Mr. Charles muttered, following behind me. Why would the best rest? I asked. I lifted another box. It was light. Must have been paper towels or something. I think it depends on what you're the best at, Mr. Charles said, now picking up another box too. Copycat in a cowboy hat. We eased down the cereal aisle again. Them boys across the street are the best at what they do, right? Well, before I bought this building, this was their drug spot. It was abandoned and all them came and went, serving their customers out of it, like a fast food joint. But when I showed up, and they weren't happy about it. They terrorized me for the first few months, robbing me, breaking my windows, and standing outside at all hours of the day. Their customers is scaring my potential customers away. I didn't want to call the cops. I mean, I was new to the neighborhood and was just trying to understand how things worked, and cops seemed like a bad way to gain that understanding. So one day I asked to speak to the boss, to the best of them, and that's when I met Biscuit. He told me if I paid him a certain amount, he'd keep them out my way, at least the ones that caused trouble. Some of them, I don't mind, like Mario. He's all right with me, but some of the others, no. We set those boxes down in the storage room, then I tripled back for more. So you paid him? I had no choice. Eventually I saved up enough to meet his price, and he gave me that $5 bill back. Said it was change and that he wanted to make sure his money was on the wall. That's why it's back there and not out there, and not out here where folks can see. Mr. Charles shook his head, saddened for a second. Then he went back to asking about my mother. Anyway, your mom, how's she doing? I went to pick up another box, but he waved me off. She's okay, just working. You know, I swear she called me the other day trying to sell me some curtains. Yeah, probably so. Well, tell her I said to come see me when she gets a chance. I need to tell her something. What you need to tell her? I asked. Well, if I tell you, then it wouldn't really be for her anymore, would it? I told you I saw your father earlier and I'm seeing you now, so I can't escape the reminder that I need to talk to your mom, he said. Is that okay with you? He closed the door behind him and came round to the deli counter, where he made me a ham and cheese to go with the sound of galloping horses as the soundtrack to sandwich making.